Hi everybody, this is going to be story number 1 out of 5. Robbie's trip to the farm. This is Robbie, and we're going to find out why he goes to the farm. On the first day of vacation, Robbie and his brother Martin packed their bags. They were going on a trip to visit their Aunt Rhonda and Uncle Jeremy. Robbie had visited them before, but never without his parents. This year, Robbie's parents said he and Martin were old enough to visit by themselves, so this year was special. Aunt Rhonda and Uncle Jeremy live on a farm. Robbie really likes the farm because he can play outside all day. Robbie likes all the animals on the farm, but his favorites are the cows and horses. Robbie could hardly wait until his Aunt Rhonda and Uncle arrived to pick them up. When the doorbell rang, Robbie and Martin ran outside. They gave Aunt Rhonda a big hug. "Hi, kids," she said as she knelt down to greet them. They gave Uncle Jeremy a hug too. He gave Robbie a piggyback ride. Robbie and Martin put their bags in the car and said goodbye to their parents. Soon they were on their way to the farm. On the way to the farm, Aunt Rhonda told the kids about the neat things that they would do. Robbie couldn't wait to help Aunt Rhonda. Robbie would collect eggs from the chicken coop and feed the chickens. But since Martin was older, he would help Uncle Jeremy brush the horses and milk the cows. The next morning, everyone woke up early. Martin went with Uncle Jeremy to milk the cows. Robbie stayed with Aunt Rhonda. She showed Robbie where they kept the corn kernels for the chickens. Then she tossed some of the kernels on the ground to show Robbie how to do it. At the chicken coop, it was Robbie's turn. He scooped up some kernels in his hand and tossed them out. The chickens rushed around pecking at the kernels. While the chickens were eating, Aunt Rhonda and Robbie collected the eggs. Robbie had a basket with a towel in it to keep the eggs from breaking. Aunt Rhonda showed Robbie how to carefully collect the eggs. He placed them in the basket one at a time. Once they had collected all of the eggs, Aunt Rhonda and Robbie took them to town. Aunt Rhonda and Robbie visited Mr. Lee at the town store. They traded some eggs for a bag of flour. On the way home, they stopped at Miss Jean's house. Robbie carried the basket of eggs up to Miss Jean's front door. Aunt Rhonda carried the bag of flour. Miss Jean was very happy about the flour and eggs. She went inside and came back with a loaf of bread. Aunt Rhonda brought Miss Jean the flour and eggs she needed to make her delicious bread. So Miss Jean shared the bread she made with Aunt Rhonda and Uncle Jeremy. The bread was warm and it smelled yummy. When they got back to the farm, all the chores were finished. Uncle Jeremy asked everyone if they wanted to go fishing. What a great idea! They grabbed their fishing gear and a basket, then headed to the pond. They took Miss Jean's yummy bread with them too. Aunt Rhonda really liked to fish, and so did Martin. But Uncle Jeremy knew that Robbie didn't like the wiggly worms used to catch the fish. So on the way to the pond, he asked Robbie to help him pick blackberries. They could eat the blackberries for dessert that night. Robbie was glad he didn't have to touch the wiggly worms. After dinner that night, the telephone rang. It was Martin and Robbie's parents. Robbie told them everything he had done. He told them how he had fed the chickens and collected the eggs. He told them that he and Aunt Rhonda traded eggs for Mr. Lee's flour. He told them they traded flour and eggs for Miss Jean's yummy bread. Robbie's parents were very proud of all that he had done. They told him that he had helped a lot of people with his hard work. That made Robbie feel good. That night, he went to sleep happy. So, a good activity to do after this is to have the children draw a picture of their favorite animal and to let them know that every little thing they do is important. Every chore they do in the house is important. So this story is just to show that everybody's job is just as important as any other job. So that was Robbie's trip to the farm. Our next our next story number 2, will be Angie and the Carnival. So come back and see me.